Good day, everybody. I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 4 English lesson on adjectives. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with a username, all right. So we see that our so we're going to select the subject of English language arts, grade 4, and then we scroll down up until we get to the chapter of adjective. All right. So our chapter is adjectives. Our subject is English language arts. We are doing grade 4, and the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of adjectives. All right, so we said our lessons is, does the adjective tell you what kind or how many? And we're going to identify the adjective that describes the noun. All right. So when it comes to adjectives, right, an adjective, it either describes the noun or tells us more about the noun, or we can say it modifies the noun, right? Anything to do with the noun. All right. So we said that an adjective, it is a word that tells us about the noun. So it tells us more about the noun. We can even say it describes the noun. Or we can say it modifies the noun. All right, so an adjective is a word that either tells us about the noun, or we can say it describes the noun, or we can say it modifies the noun. So some of our adjectives, right, they answer questions like what kind? So what kind? And this kind of question can be, wow, it can be broad, right? Even if you were to wear a certain color, it is what kind? A type of dress or shoes, it is what kind? All right. So when it comes to adjectives that answer questions like what kind, then we can say the small baby smiled. The small baby smiled. So now the question is what kind of baby smiled? And then we will say small, because the small baby smiled. All right, if we look at another example of adjectives that answer the questions of what kind, then we can say she carried heavy books. She carried heavy books. All right, so we can say she carried heavy books. So now the question is, what kind of books did she carry? And we can say heavy books. So that is our adjectives that answers the question, what kind? And then some of our adjectives, right? It answers the questions, how many? And if we look at our examples, it says one baby smiled. So now you need to ask yourself, how many babies smiled? And then one is our answer because only one baby smiled. She carried some books. And if we would find the adjective, then some would be our adjective. All right. So when it comes to adjectives, right, we see that adjectives, it's a word that tells you about the noun. It describes the noun, it modifies the noun, right? And when it comes to adjectives, we need to answer two questions. What kind of or how many? All right, and then we said some of our adjectives it answers or asks our questions. How many? One baby. We can say several. We can say 1,000. We can say two. As long as you're saying how many. Even if you were to say several, right? Then it means that it's to do with how many, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be a number that you give. All right, so now let's go to aplusstudents.ca and we're going to do our chapter and on adjectives. And we're going to the first one that says, does the adjective tell you what kind or does it tell you how many? All right. So now we're going to look at the adjectives in italics, right? Does it tell you what kind or does it tell you how many? It says she gave Megan 4 quarters. We need to say if it tells you what kind or if it tells you how many. All right, and she gave Megan 4 quarters. And if we look at that word 4 quarters, right? And then it tells you how many she gave, right? All right. So anything that is to do with either a number or you, for example, saying things like several, many, a lot, we say that is how many. All right. Now, many people visit our country. We need to look at the adjective in italics, right? Which is many. And we need to say, does it tell you what kind or does it tell you how many? All right. So many people visit our country. And if we look at the word in italics that is many, and then we can say many is an adjective that says or that asks, how many? So, how many people visit our country? Many people visit our country. So, how many? That is the question that we need to ask. And in the last one, we say, they flew at high altitude. All right, so it says they flew at high altitude. They flew at high altitude. So we now need to say, does the sentence tell us what kind or how many? All right, so they flew at high altitude. So when it comes to this word altitude, right, or high, then we can say this tells us what kind, right? It tells us what kind. All right. So now we're going on to our activity and lesson, and then we are going to our test. All right, we're ready to do the activity. Let's go to the test. Yes, and that is correct. Well done. It says, look at these adjectives in italics. We need to say, does it tell you what kind or how many? There are 7 continents. All right. So do we say there are 7 continents? Do we say this is, it tells us what kind, or it tells us how many? The word in italics is 7. So does it tell you what kind or how many? All right, so we can then say there are 7 continents, and since they are showing 7, we can say how many, because they're basically telling us how many continents there are. All right. The next one says, look at the adjectives in italics. Does it tell you what kind or how many? It says, sailors lowered the heavy anchor. All right, so it says, sailors lowered the heavy anchor. All right, and if we look at the word heavy, so sailors follow, or let's say lowered the heavy anchor. And we can say sailors lowered the heavy anchor, like what kind of anchor? All right, so what kind is the correct answer or question being asked? Many people visit our country. Many people visit our country. So many is a word in italics. So many people visit our country. So if we look at that sentence, all right. So we can say many people visit our country, and if you were to choose which adjective, if you look at the adjective, right, and see what it basically says, does it say what kind or how many? We can say it is how many because they specifically putting emphasis on many people visit our country. All right, so we need to look at the adjective in italics and say, this is how many. Sorry. All right, let's look at the next one. I like this lovely neighborhood. We need to say if this is saying what kind or if it's asking how many. So look at the word lovely. I love this lovely neighborhood. All right, so we need to look at the adjective in italics. Does it tell us what kind or does it tell us how many? In this lovely, so not in this, I like this lovely neighborhood. Lovely. Is lovely what kind of neighborhood or how many neighborhood? All right. Lovely. Yes, then it would be what kind? Okay, so I'm gonna explain again, right? So when it comes to our adjectives, right? Let me come here. So when it comes to our adjectives, we have adjectives that tell you what kind, and then we have adjectives that tells you how many. Anything that you can count, right? Anything that you can count, we say how many. So even if you say there are several books, there are 10, um, a lot. Even if you use words like many, right? These are all words that tell you how many things there are, right? So then we use the word how many. When it comes to what kind, if they maybe describe things in color, things in, like maybe if they say the dress is red, it's a beautiful dress, it's lovely, heavy, anything that tells us what kind of something it is, right? Then we add it over here, which is what kind. So even if you were to say that she's got a lovely dress on, then lovely is our adjective that tells us what kind, because now we are describing the dress, right? If we say that she's got a black dress on, then black describes the dress, right? Heavy books, heavy describes the books, right? Smiled, or let's say, yeah, not even smiled, yeah, the baby smiled. Then it means that smiled is our adjective. It tells us what kind, right? Or small baby, sorry. Small baby, big baby, chubby baby, cute baby. These are all words that tells us what kind of baby is it? What kind of books is it? What kind of thing is it? So you need to ask yourself that question whenever you try to answer or whenever you try to identify the adjectives as into what kind or how many, right? Does that answer your question? Does it answer the question? All right. So let's go. We're going back now to here we are tasties, right? So here it now says look at the adjective in italics. There's the word in italics, right? We need to say, does it tell us what kind or how many? Michelle or Mitchell will write 3 sentences. So now you ask yourself the question, how many sentences will Mitchell write? Because we cannot say what kind of sentences, because 3 describes or tells us about the sentences, right? So which means that this will tell us how many sentences Mitchell will write, which means that it tells us how many. That is what it tells us, right? The next one says she gave Megan 4 quarters. She gave Megan 4 quarters. And if you look at the word in italics, four is the word in italics. Four is the word in italics. And if you look at the word four, four is a number. Four is a number. And if four is a number, then it means it tells us how many. She gave Megan 4 quarters, right? So if she gave Megan 4 quarters, so now you need to ask yourself, how many quarters did she give Megan? And then it's almost like that italics, the word in italics will answer itself, 4 quarters. So which means that our answer would be how many, right? 4 quarters. Well done. Yes, option 2 is correct. Look at the next one. It says, I like crisp toast. I like crisp toast. We need to say, does it tell you what kind or does it tell you how many? So I like crisp toast. The word in italic is crisp. Does it tell us what kind of toast? Or does it tell us how many toast? Yes, so which means that if we were to choose the correct one, we will say it is option one. What kind of toast? It is crisp toast. So well done. Option one is correct. All right, well done. It says I love orange poppies. I love orange poppies. Does it tell us what kind of poppies? Or does it tell us how many poppies? So I love orange poppies. Do we say what kind of poppies? Option one or option two, how many poppies? All right, and if we were to choose the correct option, we would say, I love orange poppies, and that will basically tell us what kind of poppies. So now we say it is orange poppies. So what kind of poppies? Orange poppies. So which means that our we are doing not we're doing we're choosing option one, which is what kind, because it basically asks the question what kind of poppies. So now you basically answer by saying orange poppies, right? So what kind is correct. So well done. All right, so now we're going to identify the adjective that describes the noun. So we're going to identify that adjective that describes the noun. All right. And remember, we said an adjective is a word that tells us more about the noun. We have adjectives that either tells us what kind or how many, right? So now we're going to identify adjectives that describes the noun, the word that describes the noun. All right, so if we look at the activity, it says, watch out for the slippery sidewalk. The question is, what kind of sidewalk? We need to identify the adjective. What kind of sidewalk? And we can then, if we identify our adjectives, we would say it is a slippery sidewalk. Because what kind of sidewalk? It is a slippery sidewalk. Because we could have removed slippery, and then that sentence would still make sense, right? Let's look at the next one. It says Emily and Grayson will share the sweet watermelon. We need to choose the word or identify the word that is being described. All right, so we say Emily and Grayson will share the sweet watermelon. So now the question is, what kind of watermelon will they share? And then we can say they will share the sweet watermelon. So sweet is our adjective that describes the watermelon. All right, so now we're going to our test where we are going to identify the adjective that describes the noun. We're going to describe the word or identify the word that describes the noun. All right, so we need to select the adjective that either tells you what kind. So we need to select the adjective that tells you what kind. Is it A or is it busy? It says we visited a busy factory. We visited a busy factory. We need to say we need to say or select the adjective that tells you what kind. Is it A or is it busy? And if we were to select the adjective that tells us what kind, then we can say busy. Because even if we were to remove busy, we would have said that we visited a factory, but now we're describing the factory by saying a busy factory. So busy, option two, yes, well done, is correct. All right, the next one says we need to select the adjective that tells you what kind. We enjoy the lovely night. We enjoy the lovely night. So we need to select the adjective that tells us what kind. We enjoy the lovely night. Is it lovely or is it night? And if we were to select the adjective, then yes, we will say lovely because lovely tells us what kind of night. Yes, well done. Lovely is correct. Well done. All right, so we can say she reads the long list. We need to select the adjective that tells you what kind. She reads the long list. Is it long or is it list? So she reads a long list. We need to select the adjective that tells you what kind. And if we were to select the adjective that tells us what kind, we will say it is long, which is our adjective that describes how long the list is. All right. And the last one. It says, the weary sailors reached land. The weary sailors reached land. We need to select the adjective that tells us what kind. Do we say it is sailors or do we say it is weary? They are describing the sailors. What kind of sailors? And yes, we would choose option two, which is weary. So we say the weary sailors reached land. So weary is correct. Yes, weary is tired, exhausted. All right. So this is the end of our lesson on adjectives. Thank you very much for joining the class. We said adjectives, it describes, modifies, or tells us more about the noun. Some adjectives, they either ask the question what kind, or some will ask the question how many. All right, so this is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, grade threes, for joining the class, and I really hope you're going to have a good evening further. Till next time, goodbye.